Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is the recap review for The Underground Railroad. Okay? Um when I first heard about this show, first of all, I gotta say this. Just the name of it and just seeing different photographs out there about the show, just like little things that came from the show. In my mind, I was like, well, I'm pretty sure I know what it's about, so I never watched a preview for it, right? So as I get further along in this recap review, especially if you've seen it or you've actually seen the previews, you're gonna be like, girl, how you ain't know that? But yeah, I'm gonna get there. And I just didn't know because I didn't watch. But anyway, okay, so the way that the episode starts out, they kind of show us like random events happening and people going in slow motion backwards. And I'm just like, okay, what is going on? I mean, I guess they're trying to kind of give us a feel of, oh, this is how a lot of things unfolded, but we don't know. And we won't know until we watch the show. So, anyway, one of the main things that stuck out to me was a woman who was giving birth to a child, and they took the umbilical cord and possibly the placenta and buried it outside of the slave quarters. Because I was just like, okay, what is we doing? But they showed the woman with the baby. So I was like, okay, cool. All right. So the show shows what's happening in that moment, and the name of this episode is Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. And so we see the main character, Cora, talking to this guy. And I'm already sure that all of the gay men and all of the women who are awestruck over guys with light eyes are going to be in love with this dude. I'm just saying, I'm not reading nobody. I'm just saying I already can see the handwriting on the wall. I have not seen anybody do anything on this show. So I'm not sure what has been said, but I'm pretty sure that is the direction it's going to go in. But anyway, the character's name is Caesar. First of all, I just looked the dude up because I was like, has he been in anything else? Because if he has, and he has an acting career, I don't know what else he's been in. And so he seemed to have been into like in some sci-fi stuff. And I've heard of some of the ones like what is it called? Battlelactica? Y'all, I don't know what the name of the thing is called. Wait a minute. Sky Atlantic series Britannica. I was like, what in the world? Y'all was thinking about something else. He's been in Krypton. I have heard of that, but I've never seen it. So, I mean, he's been in some stuff. And I'm wondering if he's British because they kept talking about all sorts of things. And I'm like, okay, is he British? And I was wondering that anyway. Let me see if they actually say whether or not this man is British. Well, it don't matter at this point. If I think about it, I'll put it in the little, down in the comment section, or I'll put it in this video. But anyway, Cora and Caesar are out in the fields, and you could tell he seems to be kind of smitten with her, but she is trying to be that type of woman who is like, I don't care about what you're talking about. You can say all of what you're saying. I don't hear you. Like, do what you do. So then we see a lot of, slaves out and about. And right now, they're not really doing much of anything. It seems as though the kids are running around playing. The adults are kind of like having their moments to like not deal with picking cotton and child. Being in the fields, doing all this stuff for massa. So I see this dude, and the dude is like built like a linebacker. Like he real tall. He like stacked. He ain't fat. He like kind of thick or whatever. So I'm looking like, okay, even though they didn't really do the most, I could tell that in my mind, I'm like, okay, this dude finna try to run. And like people were looking at him sideways like, all right, what is going on? Because he did something, and then people looked at him sideways anyway. And then like two boys walked by, and one of them didn't have a hat on, and he put his hat on the one who didn't have a hat on his head. So I'm like, okay, first of all, back in the day, even with my grandparents, they didn't have much of anything. All they had was themselves, their children, and the few things that they did make and or have a little bit of money to pay for. So I'm like, ain't nobody got no time And don't nobody have no clothes and stuff to just be given away. And that hat did not look like it was worn down and he might have a new one at the house that he about to put on. So in my mind, I instantly was like, oh, he finna try to run. All right, I don't blame you. Do what you do. So like everybody looking at him like, all right now. Like I feel like everybody know he finna try to run. So I was just like, okay. Yo, so then like nightfall comes. I don't know how far along this is. I think that I was listening to this part and I might have got it wrong, but y'all could definitely come down in the comment section and correct me, because I was just like, stuff like this just, it does something to me. But anyway, so it's nighttime, and on this particular plantation, there are like brothers, two brothers or dudes who are like real cool with one another or whatever. I think there's two brothers. One of them has like the south end of the fields and the other one has the north end of the fields. And the way that one brother runs it is completely different from the way the other one runs his folks and, you know, his property, which are the slaves. And I think the one that's in the south, he allows his, you know, his slaves to do what they want to do, like when they off the clock, you might as well say. And they have like certain days of the week where they have like a little gathering and they, you know, play music and they eat and congregate and just, you know, try to have some sort of a little bit of a life, which, you know, ain't much to say because, you know, it was slavery. So anyway, him and his brother came up there to the function one night. And so before they got there, Cora, she brought some food to this blind older black man that was there. And you could tell that like he's well respected. He might have been a slave for probably all his life. And so, you know, she's trying to make sure he good, see if he liked the food. And he was like, yeah, it's good. So he barely take him a good little 2 sips of the food, the soup or whatever it was she gave him. And then they done rolled up. And so he even could tell that the atmosphere, like something different was in the atmosphere. What is going on here? He even perked up, was like, all right, what is that? So everybody to stop what they're doing. Everybody stopped having fun. And so the brother, who is very like a sourpuss, he ain't really here for nothing. He done rolled up and he was like, oh, I hear that y'all be having these festivities. I won't be here very long. And he over here trying to read the music and trying to make it seem like there's a stench in the air because there are niggers all around and all this other stuff. I'm like, y'all be killing me. Like, when the stuff like this that had been said to slaves used to trip me out. Because I'm like, y'all had the audacity to try to read and say all this ignorant stuff to people. But y'all was the ones sneaking in folks' bedrooms and snatching them out of their bedrooms and having sex with these men's wives and daughters and granddaughters and all of that and knocking them up. But you want to say all of this. Like, that's something that always amazed me. But I digress, because stuff like that triggers me. Because I'm like, how dare you? When you done put yourself all up and through this person's uterus and tore their uterus down and having them have babies and forcing them to have sex. Anyway, the brother who ain't here for all of this, who is very strict, he rolled up and was like, y'all got stuff going on that I ain't here for it, so I ain't gonna be here before y'all very long. I hear that there is a young boy here who knows how to, who knows the Declaration of Independence or something like that by heart or whatever. And so from what I can gather, if y'all again, correct me down in the comment section, apparently the child disappeared or his daddy disappeared or something, and they looking for the boy who can do it. And so some old snitching slave, he all scary, and he was like, well, I don't know where he at, but this boy, he hang out with that son. I'm sure he know how to recite it. So they done put the little boy on the spot. The little boy knows it, or he did know it, but he got really nervous in front of Massa. And, you know, he over here trying to recite it. And then Massa saw how he was trying, and then he just kneeled down and he actually recited all of it to him. And the boy was so scared because the way they made it seem like the slaves made it seem like if he didn't recite it, that they all was going to die, or he was going to get killed, or something was going to happen. So he over here feel for his life. So he on Master's like, I'm sorry, please don't kill me, I'm sorry. he did knock all the alcoholic beverage out of this man's glass. So both the brothers came up there with beverages in their glasses, right? Child, he looked at his hand and looked at his glass, saw all his beverage was gone, and was tired of his spirit. And so he took this cane that he was walking around with, that I'm sure probably belonged to his daddy or his granddaddy, who owned the slaves before him. And he started to beat this child down, knocked this boy. I was like, please, Lord. I'm talking about this child was young. He beating the boy down with the cane. And so Cora came out of nowhere and ended up shoving the man out the way. Well, needless to say, it got to a point where he was not, of course, finna have that, even though she was trying to protect this child. And so he ended up tying both of them to a tree, and they both got whipped by two different people. I can't. When I see people getting whipped in these scenes like this, it just destroys my nerves, because they really be getting joy out of this. Like, they make a whole, they do the most, because they'll sit up there and they'll be like, we gonna teach y'all what you're not gonna do. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna witness this. So they had all the slaves gather around to watch this whipping happen for a certain amount of time, and they kept on whipping them until they was tired in their spirit and left her and the little boy tied up to the tree. So that morning, they ended up untying them, and, you know, there were ladies who were trying to tend to her wounds, like her back was towed all the way down to the ground. And so old boy Caesar, he ended up coming in the room where she was at and being tended to, and took her out and took her into this place where I think they, you know, do some kind of illegal or whatever type of beverages in there. And he was like, you know, you get a lot of air in this room, it'll be good for you. And he uncovers a book. And I was like, okay, find out later on it's a piece of, it's like half of Gulliver's Travels. So he's reading, and so she finds out he can read, and she was like, if they find out you can read, they're gonna kill you. And all of that, and like he holds it, you know, he hides the book and all this other stuff because he's trying to make sure nobody knows about it. Well, it gets to a point where, you know, eventually they come into where she actually grew up. She was born in this particular slave house, this shack. And they end up coming to get her out of there because she's in there by herself. She has not procreated with anyone. She's supposed to be breeding, basically, with Caesar. He ain't here for it. He was like, yeah, I ain't doing it. I ain't finna let nobody make me breed. I'm not even supposed to be here. And so she trying to get him to get with the program, because she was like, you gonna get both of us killed. So anyway, this is when later on all this other stuff happens where they done rolled up. They ended up having to drag her out the house. The other slaves drug her out of the house. She didn't want to leave. She was like, "No, please, I don't want to go. This is where I grew up. My mama gave birth to me here." Her mama was a slave, obviously. And, you know, she gave birth to her, and eventually, even she was a child. Like, she could, you know, walk, run, and all this at this point in time. And her mama left and got away. I don't know if she's dead. She don't know if her mama dead or not, but her mama got away. So, y'all, they ended up getting her out of there. And, you know, she is fighting all the way because she wants to stay. Because that's the only piece of her mama really that she has. Because she has her memories with her mama in that place. Well, they fought and got her out of there, and the slave masters and whoever else told the other slaves to get up in there and clean it out, and they wanted to be spick and span and to be shining. Them people ran in there with them buckets and was scrubbing that floor. I was like, Lord, it's too much. So anyway, a little boy was walking with one of the slave masters, and this just so happened to be the one of the brothers, the one who actually, you know, allows his slaves to have fun. Well, word got back that he had passed away, and he came out to the fields and let everybody know, look here, this is what it's gonna be. My brother gone. Let's say a prayer for him. He just said it all. And so old girl don't really care nothing about none of this. So instead of being at attention, basically, like everybody else, she was just bent over in the field like she was still picking cotton. And old boy got up off the horse, and I think it's the house of Randall. And he done got off the horse and walked over to where she was at and picked her head up and looked at her, because you could see that she has this mark on her, a fresh mark from when she got hit. She got hit and all this other stuff before she got whipped. So he over there kind of picking at it, and then the overseer, the black overseer, I think that's what you call people like him. He gonna ask him, is everything all right, master? He was like, yeah, everything's perfectly fine. So anyway, they doing the most. I'm tired of my spirit. So he has, the slave owner, he has taken over ownership of all of it. So he just came to let everybody know all the fun stuff y'all was doing before all that's cut out. Ain't nothing like how my brother was. Y'all gonna do what I say, and y'all better ask the other people. Y'all better ask the people in the north how we do things in the south, or how y'all better ask the people in the south how y'all do things in the north. Whichever side he owned, he told them you need to ask them how it go, because I don't play them games. Ain't finna be none of that music around here. Y'all ain't finna be sitting up having these little parties and gatherings and shindigs. Y'all ain't finna have none of this. And y'all gonna be coming up off of, he was allowing y'all to have y'all little portion of y'all money. Y'all gonna come up off of that. Y'all gonna give me the rations. What it was, it's a word they use. I forgot what it was. Tariff. You gonna pay a tariff. All this other, this man to set it all the way off. Like, he is finna get money all the way around up off these folks. So I was like, ooh, you trash. So anyway, he took on this little black boy, and he has been teaching him how to do a lot of stuff. And so he is trusting him to be his trusty, sidekick, if you will. And he has been telling him to write stuff down and all this other stuff. So when you see him, you see him. Like, the most that popped off. I'm like, please go somewhere and sit down. Y'all doing the most. So anyway, there's a slave catcher, and he's in play. And so he talks to them from time to time, of course, because people have ran away. Cora's mama being one of those people. And so it's been like years. And so he was like, well, I'm sorry. That's my greatest failure, because he hadn't been able to catch him. Ain't never been able to find him. He don't know what's going on. The most that popped off. So, and another thing they discussed in that meeting was whenever they're going to end up having, the bucks, especially with Cora and Caesar, there's going to be an audience. He's going to be there to witness it, because they trying to figure out why this heifer ain't pregnant yet and what done went down. Because, like I said, Caesar said he ain't here for that. He ain't even supposed to be there, because I think what happened was he was somewhere else and his daddy was a slave. Like, because later on we find out he was in Delaware, and then he was living in Mississippi, and like everybody was confused. Like, how in the world you get Mississippi? Like, I have a friend who is from Jackson, he's from Jackson, Alabama, but he was like born in Delaware. I know a lot of people who were in the military, they were there, and that's why, but he's ultimately from Jackson, Alabama. But that's why I was confused. I was like, because that's kind of been somewhat of a neutral place where, even though there hadn't been that many black people, like, seemed like you were pretty safe, you were there. So I'm like, how in the world he started off there and now he in Mississippi? So anyway, y'all, this man that took a front row seat to the screwing session, and Cora's sitting there looking like, of course, I'm here because I have to be here. I'm a slave, ain't nothing I could do. And old boy in his feelings, he tied his spirit, because this is not something that he wanted to do. Even though he likes her, this is not something that he wants to do. So, y'all, he went to his safe place, which was, after everything was all said and done, he went and found that book, and he was reading Gulliver's Travels again. And after that, everything was just as normal. And they all out in the fields and doing what they doing. Well, I already told y'all earlier that there was a slave who looked like he was trying to escape, and he did, but they end up catching him. The slave catcher caught him. And right now, even though a lot of them are out in the fields working, there is a little gathering that has happened at the house. And so Massa, they invited some folks over, and they are there to basically witness this man getting whipped and killed. And so they had somebody come out to the field, Massa or whoever come out to the fields and they had the overseer. They had him come out to the fields and tell everybody, stop what you're doing. They want you to come immediately to this area, drop what you're doing, leave your bag where that, leave your sack where that, honey, leave it where that, and come on in. And so, as usual, they had them to have a front row seat to the whipping. And before they even got there, they had already started the whipping so that the white people at the table could see all this go down. And so one of the patrons was like, the dude was like, I don't know how you think I'm going to enjoy my food while I'm watching this man being treated like this or something like that. He said something to that effect. And he was like, oh, your first mistake was thinking that was a man. And so he over here trying to describe the difference between a man and the black person that was being beaten over there, even though he is a person. See, that's what makes me so mad, because I'm like, y'all be setting it off, and it is further proof, and I'm glad they have covered it in this show, that y'all set it off and you're literally mad because black people have so much of an advantage over y'all on so many different fronts. And it's like you're hating and you're mad, and it's like you just mad because you ain't us. It's ridiculous. But then you want to be us. You want to be us. You want to be like us. It is sad. It's sad. So anyway, y'all, I'm going to be went off on a tangent if I go there. So anyway, so after they already had the little show started for the white people, they ended up having them come out of the fields to witness what was happening. So he was already in the middle of getting beat. He was getting whipped left and right. And y'all, of course, they ended up bringing the Bible into it and read a verse talking about how they're going to be burned up by hell or whatever. I forgot the verse. But yeah, ended up reading that verse, then set the man on fire. The man died burning alive. And I think his son ended up, later on seeing his charred body just hanging there. And I was so tired of my spirit. But yeah, y'all, I can't. So earlier in the episode, like at the very beginning of the episode, Caesar already made it plain that he ain't supposed to be there. He ain't trying to be there. Heifer, you need to come with me because I'm trying to lead this place. And he makes it abundantly clear over and over again. He ain't supposed to be there and he ain't trying to be there. And so when he mentioned it to her before, she was just like, no, you talking crazy. And so all of these events that kept on happening, it just got to a point where he was just like, okay, let me get my life together. She was just like, let me get my life together. They doing the most around here. I ain't got time. I can't even be in the shack that I grew up in and was born in that reminds me of my mama. So I ain't even got no reason to even be here. So what they did was she ended up getting the seeds from some okra and taking it with her and trying to bury all the evidence or whatever, but she didn't do a very good job of that. She took her mama's birthright with her, and she ended up meeting Caesar in some part of the fields. They did cane and cotton, if I'm not mistaken. That's what they were picking and cutting up. So they had bags and stuff packed, and they, linked up. He heard a noise. He was already there. So he heard a noise. He didn't know what it was, and he waited, and it was her. And so he was glad that she actually showed up, because he was going to leave whether she wanted to or not, because he was trying to explain to her it's a whole Underground Railroad situation. She thought it was a metaphor. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. So anyway, they leaving, and they done went off into the, forest and whatnot, into the woods. Let me say the woods, because this is Georgia. So I was like, okay, y'all, this heifer that was helping to kind of like give her something to drink when they were trying to tend to her wounds. I think her name is Luffy or something. Y'all forgot what her name is. But anyway, she appeared from out of nowhere. And so he kind of was looking like, oh no, ain't nobody got time. You need to go on back where you was. And, they kind of had to accept she was going to be there, because she was like, I'm not going back there or whatever. And you could tell she might be kind of off her rocker, but I'm not sure if it's just a coping mechanism or what, but she might have a slight mental instability type of situation going on. I have no idea, but that's kind of the vibe I was getting. I'm not sure. Y'all excuse me. Got an eyelash in my eye. I cannot stand that. So anyway, y'all, they trying to leave. And for me, I ain't gonna lie, y'all, while I'm watching the show, even before this girl showed up out of nowhere, I kept saying to myself, y'all moving too slow for me. Now, it had gotten to the point where all they really did was move her out of that house so that one of the lazy white men that works at the plantation could just lay up with folks and just have his recreational sex with the slaves. And I was tired of my spirit. Old girl came up in there one night, and she had a hatchet, Cora. And she just really came up in there to get some stuff and leave. That's what it was. Because she was finna cut him up. But then the other slave that was in the bed looked up and was like, all right, nah. But anyway, so then after she got what she got, she ended up going outside and digging up stuff. Because that's the only way you could really hide stuff if you couldn't hide it in the house. So another place that she hid some stuff was in the dirt, outside in a patch. And I was confused because I was like, wait a minute, you had okra over here. I'm going to get to that in a second. So anyway, the only reason why they found out as soon as they did that they had escaped was because this heifer left the okra in this patch that was next to the house where she lived before they kicked her out. And old boy went outside and kicked something to the side and went and peed on the house, basically, instead of going to an outhouse or whatever. Like, I was just like, you just big and lazy for no reason. So anyway, ended up doing that. And so for him to be as lazy, like every time you see him, all he doing is sitting somewhere being lazy or he whipping somebody. And I'm like, if you wasn't white, wouldn't nobody be here for you. You would have been dead. You wouldn't have never made it. Because he definitely would not be useful in the fields. I'm just saying. So anyway, he looked over and he saw all this stuff on the ground. And so I'm like, for you to seem like a dummy, how you catch on to that? So anyway, slave catchers and all this stuff come out of nowhere. People come from out of nowhere, hunt them down. And old girl got. Not Cora. I forgot what her name is. But the girl who was trying to help her when she got whipped. When Cora got whipped. So they ended up getting her, basically. And she was going to slow them down anyway. She was sitting over there humming and stuff. Like, old boy had to keep telling her that she needed to stop. Because you're bringing attention to y'all. Even though wasn't nobody out there with y'all at the moment, you doing the most. And like I said, I think she kind of has mental disability. I don't know. So anyway, they trying to figure out which way they supposed to go. Shoot, she had to pull the hatchet out and kill the man who had attacked her. I was like, yes, Lord. So he was like, they're going to be on us. We got to hurry up and get out of here. She trying to figure out where they at. And he expected her to know. I'm like, sir, you know good and well she'll know where she going. You the one who had this plan. So anyway, they going where they supposed to go. And old boy sees the first stop where they need to go. And it's some house that has a red roof on it. And so they run to it and they go inside. And earlier in the episode, we saw this man roll up on him while he was by himself. And I don't know if I just was halfway looking at it or not, but when I saw this part, I was like, oh, okay then. So like he is one of the people who ain't here for this slavery mess. And he was one of the people who, you know, along the way, he will help you. And so he was helping them and he actually led them down into the ground, underground, under his house, where there was literally a train track. And a train actually came and picked them up. I was like, this is really going to be a train. This ain't going to be what it's been our whole life. This is really finna be a train that's going to take these black people, hopefully, to freedom. We really going to have a train? And they had, of course, they had black people as the conductor, other people that was on the train. I was like, oh, y'all done went off. So before they you know, of course, before the train got there, they had to do a manifest. And so old boy was like, I'm sorry, but you know, somebody gonna have to speak, whether it's a little bit or a lot. And so he was like, I'll speak on behalf of both of us. So she walking around, she trying to figure out what's going on. The train pull up. I'm just like, I'm still through about the fact that there's a whole train, because she saw the track and was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? But they got a whole train out here. So far, I'm here for it, even though it does trigger me at times. I feel like if y'all are, you know, into, you know, certain TV shows and movies that are like this, if you liked Underground, you will love this. If you like 12 Years a Slave and all that stuff, you know, if you enjoyed that, even though it has these moments that will trigger you, then you might be interested in it. I've seen a couple of episodes. I don't know when I'll be back with another recap review, but I like it. I like it. I know that I'm going to be very, very triggered. I've had moments where I've had to completely stop it. So I already know what I'm getting into. Hopefully y'all have enjoyed this recap review. Please like this video for me. I'll see y'all later on. Bye.